So it's been a while since I made any YouTube videos. I'm going to try something a little different, a little harder for me, but I'm going to try to explain old tractor carburetors and running an old tractor on E85 and why I did it, how I did it, and what I'm going to keep doing with it. I'm not the best talker and I'm not the best explainer, so you'll have to bear with me on that one, but I'll try to make it comprehensible and try to get some good info out there on E85. So we'll get at it. This is a carburetor off my 1956 Minneapolis Moline 445. This is a Marvel Schrabler carburetor, very common of the tractors of that era. And this tractor, I bought it on an online auction out of Colorado, and I brought it back to Illinois and kind of fixed it up, and I use it regularly all summer long in the hay fields, either raking hay or tedding hay. And it ran pretty good, except for a few things that were a little weird. When I took off in road gear going down the road, it'd kind of knock or ping. And when I shut it down when it was warm, it would diesel a little bit. Like it'd turn the ignition off and pop, pop, pop a few times after you turn the ignition off. That's dieseling. It's caused by hot spots in the combustion chamber. And the knocking and the pinging was pre-detonation, which is bad. So that tractor I found had high elevation heads on it. Being from Colorado, it makes sense, but the high elevation heads have a higher compression ratio to compensate for the power losses at higher elevation. The compression ratio on the high elevation heads is like 7.8 to 1, if I remember correctly, and regular heads are somewhere like 7.2 to 1. So it doesn't seem like a big boost in compression, but an old tractor makes quite a bit of difference. And I could run it on 93 octane and be good, probably. I haven't tried it, but it probably worked. But I tried E85 last year as a little experiment that's kind of fun and different, and it ran really good on E85 under load, and it doesn't like to idle very well, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But half throttle and above is perfect. It just purrs right along. And under load it is smooth and it stays cool. It doesn't overheat at all. It stays pretty good temperature even on the hot days. But anyway, basic carburetor. Choke. So you want to choke an engine when you start it sometimes if they're hard starting, but this one fires up pretty easy without the choke. The choke pulls a vacuum on the entire carb, on the inside of the carb, to draw a rich mixture going in to get the fuel to the cylinders faster, to get this part light off, start up easier. On an old gasoline, or on any gasoline engine, your speed of the engine is controlled by your air going in. So if you want to go faster, you let more air in. If you want to slow it down, you slow down the air. On a diesel engine, there is no throttle plate. On a diesel engine, your speed of the engine is controlled by how much fuel you put into the engine through the injectors. So you can put more fuel into a gasoline engine, but you still control the speed by your airflow going in past the throttle blade. So you can run a rich mixture, or you can run a lean mixture. A rich mixture is just going to foul out your plugs and cause it to smoke more going out the exhaust. And when I ran this on pump gas, I ran it pretty rich. Like it would smoke when you rev the throttle up. And that kind of kept it pretty happy, but it runs a lot better on E85. But E85 needs 30% more fuel than it does gasoline. So if you're running your fuel mixture where it needs to be, you need 30% more fuel with ethanol. So it might seem like a waste, but I was running that old tractor rich on pump gas, so there wasn't a big loss in fuel efficiency. It just ran smooth and ran cooler, and didn't lose any power. It still runs everything I needed to it just fine. And I'm not putting a big load on it with the hay tedder or hay rake or anything. But I did change out the power screw. This is adjustable. It was a fixed orifice power jet. And I drilled this out a little bit bigger to run more fuel to the power circuit. This is the idle circuit, and I might play with that to make it idle a little better, but we'll see how that goes. I think I have an idea for that, but I don't know if I can do it without anything going wrong. So you got the venturi, right? That's the orifice restriction through the throttle body, or well, the restriction through the throttle body. And that runs off Bernoulli's principle. So as the speed of air increases, its pressure decreases. So you restrict it here, it's got to go faster through that restriction, and that causes a vacuum right above the powered jet. So it sucks fuel out that soda straw thing. Now on idle, your throttle body's kind of closed and it's not pulling enough air to make that differential pressure through the venturi. So what it does is it pulls fuel from the top above the throttle plate. There's a little screw in there, or not a screw, but a orifice. I don't know if you can see it on this with the lighting. It's in there. There's a little hole that sucks fuel through your idle jet. That little guy. And I might take a little tiny screwdriver or a little tiny drill bit and see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Not much, just a little bit, and see if that helps it idle. But so I took this apart to change the needle and seat and clean it up this past few days. Here's the old needle. It's the old school steel tip needle. It's kind of worn out, and I didn't want to put the modern rubber tip needle in there because the alcohol will kind of mess with those rubbers. They'll make them soft and they'll swell and they'll cause problems. They'll either stick closed where you run your fuel bowl empty and then it dies, or it'll not close off and you get fuel overflowing through the power jet and it runs really rich or it chokes out. So I found on eBay a new old stock, old school steel tip needle that was the same as the other one, all these marble shavers. So I got a new one of those, and then the seat, you want to change those as a matched pair. You don't want to go changing needles without changing the seat, because if the needle's worn, the seat's worn too, and it won't jive as well. On a modern rubber tip needle, it probably isn't too bad if you just change the needle, if you're just running gasoline, but you might have issues if you don't change them as a pair. The float, it's still good. It was a little tarnished from the ethanol, but that's from sitting. If you're running fresh ethanol, fresh E85 through this on a daily basis, it's not going to sit long enough to cause problems, and it's not going to hurt the rest of the engine. Your main concern is corrosion in the fuel tank, fuel lines, and carburetor if you let it sit. And it'll still corrode with regular pump gas too. Pump gas is hydrophobic, meaning it doesn't mix with water. If you can shake it up, but the water's going to precipitate down to the bottom of whatever it's holding in. You'll see that in the fuel bowl under the gas tank. If you got a little bit of bubbles floating at the bottom, that's water in your fuel. Then you can just take the fuel bowl off and dump it out. But in the carburetor, you can pull the needle, the power screw, and you can see water coming down if it's water in the gasoline. But with ethanol, you don't see that because it's held in solution. So as that fuel evaporates, you get tarnishes and rust areas where that the oxygen gets to that water and it corrodes, oxidizes. So we got the needle and seat. That was kind of a pain in the ass to get out because it's been in there a long time. I ended up stripping out the screwdriver grooves on that brass, and I ended up having to get an easy out in there and beating on it. After a while they loosened it up and then I could get it out with an easy out. But it came out and I didn't damage anything. So the power screw is drilled out on the end a little bit, and that's your power screw orifice, and you can adjust that with an adjustable metering pin. So that goes up into here, and it depending on how far away you got that set from your orifice, it'll change the dimensions of it and let more fuel in or less fuel in. On this one, it's not even touching anywhere. It's just barely screwed in to where it won't let fuel pass O-ring on here, and that's runs fine at full power with ethanol. That little O-ring, haven't had any issues there. So the issues I'm having with it are the idle circuit. That's the idle jet, that little orifice. It's really tiny in there. You can't really see the bottom of it because it's recessed and it's got the screwdriver flats. But I might take a little tiny drill bit and try to open that up just a little bit, see if it helps the idle. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty basic, pretty easy. It cleaned up fine. There's a little corrosion in there, but if it was sitting for years, it would have been bad. But a few months over the winter time didn't harm it, didn't damage it too much. The choke is still crusty. I need to clean that up. But I really don't even have to use the choke on this tractor. It starts up fine. That's about what all the inside of this carburetor looked like with the crusties on there. So you let them sit and they get crusty and you don't clean out the carburetor and you get all those little rust flakes and corrosion. That gets plugged in your metering pin orifice in your idle jet, and it just cuts off fuel flow and it doesn't run very good. Or you get a bad needle and seat and it overflows out the power jet and it runs rich, or it overflows and it leaks out when you shut off the tractor. And you always want to shut your fuel off when you're not, after you're done running the tractor. A lot of times every time on this tractor I'll shut off the fuel bowl, the fuel valve at the bottom of the tank, and I'll let this carburetor run till it's empty and shuts itself off, and then I'm done. That's kind of my cool down procedures for that old tractor too, on any old tractor really. So that's all the basics of what I've done. I'm going to keep running E85 in it and see if that little maybe I can even find a bigger idle jet. I don't know. I have to do some research and some web surfing to see if I can find a bigger idle jet for a Marvel Schraebler carb. The float, it was pretty tarnished, but it didn't hurt it any. If it was sitting for longer, it might have been a problem. But I cleaned this all out and then PB blasted everything and scrubbed it out. Still need to do final cleaning, but I'm waiting for gaskets, because the old gaskets were stuck on there really hard. They fell apart when I tore it apart. Is that everything I was trying to convey to all you guys? All you YouTubers are looking for ethanol related tractor videos? So you can see the idle jet is straight shot through the bottom. So all that intake for your idle jets and your power jet are at the bottom of the carburetor. There's the intake for the power jet. The idle jet's on the side, one of these two. I don't know why there's two, but there's two. And then that meets up with the back one, meets up with the idle jet. The front hole in that goes right past the throttle body behind the venturi for whatever reason. I think that's for pressure differential. There's no pressure underneath the back of this, on the outside of this venturi, and it's all sealed off with a gasket, so you actually have a low pressure, or an ambient pressure behind the venturi, where it pushes through here and then it sucks out this through the idle jet. So there's two holes there. And there's some other things that I'm not too sure of, like this behind the choke, this orifice. You can kind of track those down. It goes to this big hole, and then back of the, I don't know, choke is, I don't use the choke, but the idea of the choke is to close it off so you get vacuum pulling a rich mixture into the engine faster, so it lights off easy. Anyway, that's the carburetor. Well, could you understand any of that? I don't know. We'll have to review the video and see if it makes it on YouTube after take like 50, maybe 45. I don't know what takeout's on. I did a lot of takes where I try to make a video straight through because I don't like editing. That's why I'm not a famous YouTuber, because I can't talk right and I can't edit videos. But I know things. I just can't spit it out the way it's comprehensible and easy to entertaining or something. I don't make YouTube videos for money. I'm not monetized. I don't have enough views. I just like taking videos of stuff I'm doing because it's interesting to me. I like old tractors and I like engines and I like doing cool stuff. I like working in the hayfields all summer long. Carrying a camera in the hayfields really slows me down, so there's like a few seasons I made a lot of videos in the hayfields, but I don't know. I might try it. Why is this screw not going in? I might try it more this season. Anyway, if you found that interesting, that's cool, and I'm glad to share my knowledge, but I don't know if anybody's watching this long. If you did, props for you.